On a cold winter night, the kingdom of Crimson Moon fell into chaos. Inside the grand palace, shouting filled the halls as soldiers loyal to a hungry nobleman named Roderick Vane stormed the throne room. King Magnus Direwolf, the strongest alpha the kingdom had ever known, stood between his enemies and his family, refusing to let them pass. The palace shook with noise and fear, and by the time the night ended, the king was gone, and Roderick had taken the throne for himself. But Roderick did not know one important thing. Before the soldiers could reach the royal nursery, a loyal guard named Daniel had already wrapped the newborn prince in a thick woolen blanket. He carried the baby through a hidden passage behind the palace walls, away from the noise and the smoke, and out into the dark forest. Snow fell heavily that night, and the wind cut through the trees like a blade. Daniel ran without stopping, holding the baby close to keep him warm. He did not look back. He knew that if he was caught, the baby's life would end before it had truly begun. After hours of walking through the freezing forest, Daniel reached a small cottage at the edge of a quiet village. He knocked on the door, and an old woman named Marta opened it, holding a candle that flickered in the wind. She looked down at the baby in his arms. The infant's eyes were a deep, glowing gold, a color found only in the bloodline of kings. "Please," Daniel said, his voice shaking from the cold and from fear. "Take care of him. Tell no one who he really is. If Roderick ever learns that the prince is alive, he will not rest until the child is gone." Marta did not hesitate. She took the baby into her arms, wrapped him in a warmer blanket, and nodded. "He will be safe with me," she said. "I promise." Daniel placed a small pendant in her hand, a silver crest shaped like a wolf's head, the mark of the royal family. "Keep this hidden until he is ready," he said. Then he disappeared into the night, and Marta never saw him again. From that day forward, the baby boy grew up far from the palace, in a small village where nobody knew his true name or his true blood. Marta called him Kael, and she raised him with the same love and care she would have given to a son of her own. Years passed quietly. Kael grew into a thoughtful young boy who loved to help in the garden, fix broken fences, and listen to Marta's old stories by the fire. He was quiet and gentle, but there was something different about him that the other village children noticed, even if they could not explain it. He could sense danger before it arrived. He could hear sounds from far away, and sometimes, late at night, his eyes would glow faintly gold, just for a moment, before fading back to brown. Marta noticed these signs too. She used special herbs, ones she had learned from healers long ago, to keep Kael's wolf spirit calm and hidden. She knew that if his true power awakened too soon, it would draw attention from the wrong people. So she waited, watching him grow, knowing that one day the truth would have to come out. That day arrived on Kael's 18th birthday. It began as an ordinary morning. Kael woke up early, fed the chickens, and helped Marta prepare breakfast. But by midday, he began to feel strange. His chest felt tight, his skin felt warm, and his vision sharpened so much that he could see individual leaves trembling on trees far across the field. By evening, the feeling became impossible to control. His whole body trembled, and a powerful force rushed through him, stronger than anything he had ever felt before. Marta found him kneeling in the garden, breathing hard, his eyes glowing brightly. She knew the moment had finally come. "Kael," she said gently, kneeling beside him. "There is something I must tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." She told him everything. She told him about the night Daniel had brought him to her door. She told him about the palace, about King Magnus, and about the cruel man named Roderick, who had taken the throne through betrayal. She placed the silver wolf pendant into his hands. "You are not just an ordinary villager," she said. "You are the lost prince of Crimson Moon. Your blood carries a power that very few wolves are ever born with." Kael stared at the pendant, his mind spinning with questions. Part of him wanted to deny it, to insist that he was simply Kael, the boy who helped fix fences and tend gardens. But deep inside, he had always felt that something larger was waiting for him, even if he never understood what it was. Before he could ask more questions, a horn sounded in the distance. Marta's face turned pale. "Roderick's scouts," she whispered. "They search every village for signs of awakened wolves. We must leave now." There was no time to pack. No time to say goodbye to the only home Kael had ever known. Marta pushed him toward the forest path and told him to run, promising she would follow soon. Kael hesitated, but the urgency in her eyes convinced him to obey. He ran through the trees as fast as his legs could carry him, his heart pounding, his mind racing with everything he had just learned. Behind him, he could hear the distant sound of horses and shouting voices. He did not know where he was going, only that he had to keep moving forward. After what felt like hours, Kael reached the edge of a river, completely out of breath. That was when he met Elena. She stepped out from behind a large tree, her sharp eyes studying him carefully. She wore simple traveling clothes, and a long blade hung at her side, though she did not reach for it. "You're running from Roderick's men," she said. It was not a question. Kael nodded, unsure whether to trust her. Elena noticed the pendant hanging around his neck, and her expression changed from suspicion to surprise. "Where did you get that?" she asked, stepping closer. "It belonged to my father," Kael said. "I only just found out who he was." Elena's eyes widened. She had grown up hearing stories about the lost prince, a child who had vanished the night King Magnus was betrayed. Many believed the prince had died that night. Others believed he was still alive somewhere, hidden and waiting. "My family once served the royal house," Elena said quietly. "If what you say is true, then you are not just hiding from soldiers. You are the rightful heir to the throne." She offered to help him, not because she fully trusted him yet, but because she could see the truth in his eyes. Together, they traveled through forests and hidden paths, avoiding Roderick's scouts, until they reached a secret camp deep within the mountains. This was the home of the Resistance, a group of loyal wolves who had never accepted Roderick's rule. The leader of the Resistance was an older wolf, named Corwin Hart, a former general who had served King Magnus faithfully. When Kael arrived, Corwin studied him carefully, unwilling to believe so easily that the lost prince had simply walked into his camp. "Many have claimed false bloodlines before," Corwin said. "Words alone do not prove who you are." That night, as tension grew among the Resistance fighters, something happened that no one expected. A pack of wild wolves wandered too close to the camp, sensing the unfamiliar scents nearby. Fear spread quickly, as wild wolves were unpredictable and dangerous when startled. Without thinking, Kael stepped forward and felt a strange pull rise within him. He raised his hand, and to everyone's shock, the wild wolves stopped in their tracks, lowered their heads, and quietly retreated into the forest. Corwin's eyes widened. "The Alpha's call," he whispered. "Only those of true royal blood can command wild wolves that way." From that moment, the Resistance began to believe. Word spread quietly among loyal packs that the lost prince was alive, and hope began to grow in places that had almost forgotten what hope felt like. Over the following months, Kael trained under Corwin's guidance, learning how to control his growing strength, how to think strategically, and how to lead with patience rather than force. Elena trained alongside him, and their early distance slowly grew into trust, then friendship, and eventually something deeper neither of them expected to find during such uncertain times. Together, they began traveling from village to village, meeting with different wolf packs across the kingdom. Many packs had suffered greatly under Roderick's harsh rule, forced to pay heavy taxes while receiving nothing in return. Kael listened to their struggles, helped settle long-standing disputes fairly, and treated every wolf he met with respect, regardless of their rank or background. Slowly, the people began to whisper a new title whenever they spoke of him, the Alpha King they had been waiting for. Roderick, hearing these rumors, grew anxious. He sent more scouts and soldiers to search every corner of the kingdom, determined to crush the rebellion before it could grow any stronger. Despite his efforts, support for Kael continued to spread, fueled by the kindness and fairness he showed wherever he traveled. But success did not come without cost. One night, while the Resistance camp rested after a long journey, a hidden traitor within their ranks revealed their location to Roderick's forces. Before anyone could react, soldiers surrounded the camp. In the confusion that followed, Corwin was badly injured while protecting the others, and Elena was captured and taken back toward the palace as leverage against Kael. Kael felt a wave of anger and fear, unlike anything he had experienced before. For a moment, His control wavered, and the wolf inside him threatened to take over completely. But he remembered Marta's calm voice from years ago, teaching him that true strength came not from rage, but from clear thinking and steady resolve. Determined to save Elena, Kael set out alone toward the capital, using old palace tunnels that Elena had once described to him from her family's history of service there. He moved quietly through the shadows, avoiding patrols, until he reached the chamber where Elena was being held. Working quickly and carefully, he freed her, and together they began making their way back through the tunnels. However, their escape did not go unnoticed. Guards sounded the alarm, and within moments, palace soldiers filled the halls. Yet something unexpected happened. As soldiers and nobles caught sight of Kael clearly for the first time, many stopped in shock. His resemblance to King Magnus was undeniable, and the silver wolf pendant around his neck only confirmed what many had long suspected. Whispers spread rapidly through the palace halls. The lost prince had returned. Roderick, furious and desperate to maintain control, appeared before the gathered crowd. He could not ignore the growing support for Kael, nor could he risk losing the loyalty of nobles who were beginning to question his rule. According to the ancient traditions of Crimson Moon, any challenge to the throne had to be settled through a formal alpha duel, witnessed by all noble packs. Roderick, confident in his years of experience, accepted the challenge, believing he could easily defeat an untested young wolf. The following morning, the entire kingdom gathered to witness the duel. Packs from every region stood together in the palace courtyard, anxious and hopeful. Marta, who had safely reunited with Kael days earlier, stood proudly among the crowd, her eyes filled with emotion as she watched the boy she had raised step forward to claim his destiny. The duel was intense, testing both skill and willpower. Roderick fought with experience and cunning, while Kael relied on the discipline and patience he had built through months of training. Though the match pushed both of them to their limits, Kael's steady focus and inner strength ultimately proved stronger. In the end, Roderick could no longer continue, and the duel reached its conclusion. According to ancient law, the throne rightfully returned to its true bloodline. As the morning sun rose higher over the palace, the gathered packs knelt together, acknowledging Kael as their new Alpha King. Cheers rose from the crowd, echoing across the courtyard and beyond the palace walls, carrying the news to every corner of the kingdom. After years of fear and division, the kingdom of Crimson Moon finally found unity once again. Standing on the palace balcony that evening, Kael looked out over the kingdom he now ruled. Elena stood beside him, her hand resting gently in his. Below them, Marta and Corwin watched proudly, their faces filled with quiet joy after years of hardship and uncertainty. Kael thought back to the frightened baby carried through the snow so many years ago, and to the quiet boy who once tended gardens without knowing the truth of his own blood. He realized that his journey had never simply been about reclaiming a throne. It had been about learning patience, kindness, and the kind of strength that came from caring deeply for others. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting a warm golden light across the kingdom, Kael understood that this was only the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, decisions to make, and a kingdom to rebuild. But for the first time in many years, the people of Crimson Moon looked toward their future with hope rather than fear. The forgotten child, once hidden away in a quiet village, had finally become the Alpha King everyone had been waiting for.